Welcome to the Roto Joe's Fantasy Football Podcast. Tonight, we have all types of fun stuff to talk about. Training camp right around the corner. First up, Deshaun Watson only got 6 games with no fine from Judge Sue Robinson. I don't know if you really classify her as a judge right now or not, since she's not really in that legal capacity. However, she oversaw this whole deal. Now, I know you had something you want to talk about, and I'm going to let you start. I have some feelings about this. I'll let you go first, Caden. What's going on with this Deshaun Watson suspension?
I mean, here's the deal, and I know we're only the 7,000 group of people to get in on this conversation, but wow, I mean, 6 games. I don't know. That is very poorly on the low side of the way I saw that going. Ultimately, so here's the deal. The NFL has 3 days to either – I don't think it's an appeal. I think they could just suspend him longer. But I think
it's called an appeal, but it's not really an appeal.
Right. I think they call it an appeal, but I think from the way I read things, Goodell could just be like, no, go fuck yourself. It's 17. Yep. And then Deshaun can appeal that. Right.
With the
That's
court.
kind of the way.
He can appeal that, but it's with like a real legit court. So they go to like an actual court trial. Brady's done it. Zeke's done it. Someone else did it. I don't remember off the top of my head, but no one's ever beat him. And Brady, they lied about the Brady thing, so.
Yeah, I've seen that people have appealed it. They all lost. Here's the deal. May not be a full season at this point, but I feel like, man, just from what I saw on the internet today, Twitter, just about everything, the whole, especially the women of the NFL are just not with it. So ultimately, I think this thing gets overturned. I think they go for 17. I think they end up settling at like 12.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. I do think the NFL wants 17. And, let's say a big sponsor, I don't know who, but women are a market that the NFL has kind of tapped, but not all the way tapped. Who's to say a big sponsor doesn't come in and they no longer want to work with the NFL if they don't appeal this, and it's just a big mess. Roger will give them 17.
Oh, yeah.
He doesn't care. So, I mean, it's really just a wait and see. The NFL fully is keeping that appeal power. They're definitely not saying they're just going to go with the ruling. So I'm curious to see how it goes. One thing I did see a lot of today, though, and I don't get it, are these outrage warriors like, I'm not going to have Deshaun Watson on my fantasy football team ever. You don't cut his checks. You don't necessarily matter to him. I like to be smart. I have a lot of Deshaun and Underdog. Underdog doesn't discriminate. All those points are equal.
Yeah. His fantasy points are just as good as anybody else's fantasy points, even though he whipped his pee-pee out a few too many times in bad situations.
And then, if you're one of those people, you can't draft Tyreek Hill or Joe Mixon or fourth in the NFL. All right, news or noise? News or noise? ESPN's Nick Wagner believes that Tyrion David Price and Jeff Wilson could both see work or early. And lots of noise that Sermon looks good too. Are all these running backs looking good news, or is it some Shanahanigans?
I gotta go noise on this one. I think he's that type of dude, to where he's a smoke screen. Yeah, you know what I mean? He doesn't want anybody to know who's looking good, who's not looking good. I think he wants to play his hand just the same as he always has. Ultimately, for me, I think Mitchell ends up as a low RB2, and I really don't want any part of the other 3. Because I think it's going to be a carousel like it always is in San Francisco. I mean, I sold high on Mitchell after last year, and
Yeah, I agree. I want no part of this 49ers thing. I think that it's a lot of noise. I'm not, like I said, I'm not in on any of them because there is 4 of them that could play, and Shanahan doesn't care. And Elijah Mitchell got hurt last year, and you almost wonder if Shanahan's beginning to realize that if he gives one back 30 carries a game like he was with Mitchell last year at some points and Mostert 2 years before at some points, it's just going to wear these guys down, especially if they're quick, smaller, outside zone-based guys. And so, yeah, there's a world where if this is news and he's being serious, I see all of them getting 5 to 10 carries a game, and then you want to start none of them. And that doesn't even bring into account the fact that Trey Lance is there, and he's going to have to run the ball a lot because I don't think they're going to let him throw the ball 30 times a game. So,
no, and there's also another thing to talk about in this, because I just read this right before the pod where Deebo Samuel's contract is laced with rushing incentives.
Yep.
So if he does, I think it was like 300 and some, like we're talking about $2 million in incentives over the lifetime of the contract. If he has X amount of rushing yards, X amount of touchdowns, rushing touchdowns. So, I mean, I see a situation brewing where any of 6 guys could be the leading rusher on this team any given week, and that just doesn't say anything good for fantasy football ownership. I don't think any of it's any good. And it might be a very good offense, but not good for fantasy. So that's kind of my proceed with caution moment there.
Yeah, I agree. And we have all types of 49ers to talk about later. We'll be going through all this again. Next little bit of news. I don't know how much news or noise this is, but you just touched on it. Deebo received 3-year, $71.5 million deal, $58.5 million guaranteed. Metcalf, super similar, 3-year, $72 million, $58.2 guaranteed. News or noise, does Deebo still get used as a running back after this incentive for rushing yards and touchdowns?
I mean, I couldn't see them not doing it because it worked, right? I mean, when he went out there and did it, it worked. He got a very similar contract to DK. Really, I believe DK, from a talent perspective, is a better receiver. But I think his rushing upside makes him slightly more valuable. He got a slightly better. I do think they do. I do think Shanahan likes to have like a deep bag, and I think he likes. I mean, dude, it wouldn't fucking surprise me if all of a sudden week 1 be Brandon A get in there with some rushes, just because he's the last goddamn guy we expect that out of, right? That's Shanahan. That's what he does. He's that ultimate trickster, trades type of guy, and they're just Kittle might go for a 1-yard tutty rush. We don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I just don't know how much Deebo really wants to do that, even with bonuses in his contract for it, because it is going to beat him up. Right now, I don't have it pulled up. I am almost certain that Deebo, after his contract, he'll be like 27, 28. So there's still room for another not fully guaranteed, but fucking a pretty big deal with a lot of guaranteed money left. And I just don't know how much he's going to want to get beat up. All right. Mitch Trubisky has been told the job is his to lose. So here's the news or noise on it. News or noise, Kenny Pickett will be starting by week 10 for the Steelers.
Noise, absolute noise, because I just read a few reports about how Kenny Pickett's in a dog shit terrible camp.
Yep.
It's camp noise. You can take it or leave it, but I've seen multiple sources that he is just absolutely shitting the bed in camp, and it's going to take a massive amount of. I even read something that said Mason Rudolph's a clear number 2. So to me, if I'm a Steelers fan and if I'm paying shares, I don't, and I won't, but it's going to have to be a miraculous turnaround. I believe that is completely solid news. I think there's no chance in hell he starts at all this year. And I think they really got some development to go through at this point. I think it's a Mitch Trubisky season. And in my opinion, you ain't a whole lot different than Big Ben. I think they'll still be competitive. I do foresee them having their first losing season in a long time, but I think it'll be like one of those, 8 and 9 type of deals.
I agree that I don't think I asked that just to kind of see where you're at. I don't think Pickett's going to start this year either. He's been bad at camp and ran with third stringer since the beginning of all this. Mason Rudolph's been the 2. So I think that Trubisky is a little better than people give him credit for. He did all right in Chicago with a bad coaching staff and outside of Allen Robinson, a fairly bad offense. He's surrounded by talent. You have Najee Harris, you have a Chase Claypool, you have Deontay Johnson, you have talent around you, George Pickens. I don't think Pickett's going to get it. I think Trubisky is going to put in. He might not be a great fantasy quarterback, but he'll be an average real-life quarterback, I think. And I'm not sold that they might not have a losing season. I think they might win 9 games. I think there's a path for them to do it. If Mitch plays
I think
decent.
if they win, if they have a winning season this season, we gotta put Tomlin in the Hall of Fame. I think we have to. That guy's a fucking miracle worker.
I think he's already.
Yeah, he probably is.
So,
but he is a goddamn miracle. Fucking A.
He does. He's a very good coach. Okay, Todd Bowles said that Russell Gage has not been able to be stopped through the beginning of camp. And Julio Jones comes into the fray in Tampa Bay, signs there. News or noise, Russell Gage will outproduce Julio Jones in 2022.
I'm going to go noise. I think there's a very clear path for Julio to kind of absorb, in my opinion, the Gronk role. That short yardage, big body type of guy. I think we finally see Julio's touchdown production kind of flip. I think he gets in the end zone a lot this year. He's not as fast clearly as he used to be, but I think he's still got that big body presence. And I think he finally, that's kind of like my bold hot take for Julio this year is he gets some touchdowns. Because they don't have Gronk. They don't have O.J. Howard. They got Kyle Rudolph and a rookie. So I think that kind of leaves that avenue open for Julio to get in there. I think he's going to be a value. Russell Gage hype season, it ended pretty quick. But I think Russell Gage will still be productive because anybody who catches passes from Tom Brady is productive at some point, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to get a noise on that. I was kind of in on the hype, but now that Julio's there, I'm kind of not. And there is a chance that Godwin's ready week 1. Slim chance, but there is a chance.
I don't buy that. I saw they didn't put him on the pup. I just think that's mind games. I'd be shocked if he comes back before week 5. I really would. Just because they're going to be Super Bowl contenders. And you have Julio and you have Russell Gage. You don't necessarily need him with Tom Brady. Maybe
Tom Brady. As long as Tom Brady's been in the league, I think Julio Jones is one of those guys that he's like, man, I fucking wish I could get some action with Julio Jones, right? And now here he is.
He cooked
making it happen.
Super Bowl.
So
he's cooked us in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and they're in a position where it's very possible for them to go out there and win it.
Yeah. So I actually have that. I have Russell Gage over Julio. I have that as news only because I think you're exactly right. Julio is going to be the Gronk role, including the injury part. And I think we're going to see a lot when all four are healthy. I think we're going to see a lot of four wideouts and one running back. And we're going to have Leonard and then the four wideouts. Tom Brady can operate out of that. Some quarterbacks would struggle with protections. Not worried about that with Tom. So I think we're going to see a lot of that really spread out offense. And when Julio's out, even if Godwin's there, Russell Gage will play the A-B role. He's not going to score that much, but I bet you can get him at a discount now because people are going to think Julio is going to kind of bastardize that. But he's not. I just don't think that Julio. I think you're exactly right. He's going to be like Gronk, where he's going to score a ton of touchdowns when he's healthy, but there's not much else. And he's got to stay healthy, which has been an issue recently. And he's 34 this year. So, next up, Jags reporter John Shipley says Travis Etienne, has been the star of training camp. News or noise, Etienne will see 75% of the backfield touches in Jacksonville this year.
That's. I mean, you call it news. I saw that coming a mile away. Very, very talented guy. Like I said before, don't discredit him playing with his college quarterback that got the chemistry. I see him getting a lot of receiving work that James Robinson never got. I see, yeah, I'm in on Etienne this year. I mean, he's kind of that guy that you take as an RB2, but could very easily end up an RB1. So yeah, book it, man. I mean, if he stays healthy, it's gonna be a year for him.
Yeah, I love Etienne. I'm an injury guy. Like, if you have a torn Achilles, I'm out on you. I don't care. And I don't care if Cam Akers is the fucking RB1 overall. If he scores 50 points a game this year, I'm still not in on him next year because it's going to keep creeping up. I think that the list Frank thing that Etienne had almost falls into that category. I think that at the discounted price of like RB 16, 17, 18 that you're getting him at, I don't really care because of his upside. But if he were going as an RB1, I'd be out on him just because that injury history is really bad. And running backs, they cut a lot, they explode, they're using their feet. They're putting a lot on their feet as time goes on. So that is a worry. But at ADP, I'm not really worried about that.
Well, I like the ADP a lot, and I also like that it's gone down since they didn't put James Robinson on the pup. And here's the deal. Like, he could come back week one, sure, but he's not going to be a fraction of what he was before. That injury takes about a year. Takes about a year to recover from. So, my opinion, even if he plays the first half of the season, he's going to be fucking worthless, right? And there's it's a year injury if they rehab right. Going out there and playing football on Sunday ain't rehab. So it's only going to extend that true time frame around to where he can get back from it. So yeah, I'm way more than in on Etienne. I got him last year in a dynasty league for what ended up being a late first, and I'm good with it.
Well, I'd be happy with that too. All right, moving on. Instead of originally we were going to do like our top 12 players at every position and name the same fucking 15 people that everyone else that has a podcast names. And I thought that was kind of dumb. We thought that was dumb. So instead, we're going to do flag plants and fades. So today we're going to do 2 of each for quarterbacks and tight ends. Next week, it'll be running backs. Next week, wide receivers or whatever, and it'll be 8 of those. So starting off, your first flag plant for 2022 quarterbacks, Aaron Rodgers. Why are you planting a flag for Aaron Rodgers in 2022?
So here's the deal. Here's what I love about Aaron Rodgers is right now you're getting him about quarterback 12. We seem to forget this guy he's in that wide receiver proof status. And in my mind, there's only been two guys I've seen in the last couple, in the last decade who it doesn't fucking matter who's playing wide receiver. And that's Aaron Rodgers and that's Tom Brady. You can't tell me Devontae Adams made Aaron Rodgers because he was doing it with a bunch of fucking nobodies before that. And that's just what he does. He's so good. He's so accurate that he's going to go out there and Aaron's going to do Aaron things. And the fact that you're getting him at quarterback 12 is just mind blowing to me, right? I mean, you're talking about a guy that you're ultimately taking as a low end QB1 who won the fucking MVP 2 years in a row. Just out world productive type of guy. I don't think people think he's going to drop off a whole lot going from Allen Lazard or Devontae Adams to Allen Lazard. I don't think it's going to fucking matter. I think I could go out there and line up at wide receiver and he's still going to have a good season. So that's it for me. I mean, if you're one of those guys that waits a little too long on quarterback, like I always am, especially in non-superflex leagues, I'm always one that waits just a little too long. And even though I know I do it, I still do it. And I'll probably keep doing it because I love to stack those skill positions. Last year I ended up in a redraft league with Matt Stafford. I think it's kind of the same value this year. You could get him late and he could turn around and still be a quarterback one with good weekly production.
Yeah, Roger. Go ahead.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
Rodgers lore as a player is quarterback 14. Like, he's only thrown under 30 passing touchdowns two times since 2011. And those were the quarterback 10, quarterback 14 years in 2018 and 19. And I think you're right, too. I think Lazard's going to step in. Aaron Rodgers only threw for 4,100 yards last year. It's not like he threw for 5,000. Lazard can catch 1,000. Jones can have 800, 900. Dillon can have 300 or 400. That's halfway there with three players. Sammy Watkins, Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson, Tanyan. All these guys can, chip in a little bit here, a little bit there. Oh, we're at 4,000 yards. Lazard will be fine at catching touchdowns. We know Tanyan can do it. Watkins can do it. We don't know about Christian Watson yet. Jones can do it. Dillon can do it. Like, all these guys are going to be fine. I think Rodgers is wide receiver proof. And quarterback 12, that's a guy who he's not going to be a high-end quarterback one, but like 7 through 10 all day long with really high weekly upside.
The only reason he won't be a top 6 quarterback is because he doesn't run.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's the only reason.
And in a league like Scott Fishbowl, he might be.
Top 4 or 5?
Yeah. Easy. I mean, my first flag plant at the quarterback position, I've talked about this guy all summer, Trevor Lawrence. Trevor had a very Peyton Manning-esque rookie year where he came in very highly hyped and just absolutely shit the bed. But similar to Peyton, he showed some things. He showed that he wasn't like, if I watched Trevor Lawrence and then I watched Zach Wilson last year, it was easy to see Lawrence was the better quarterback. Even though they had maybe a similar statistical output, Lawrence probably threw more picks. You could just tell. Like, you could tell the arm talent was there. You could tell that he was composed. He could mobile, really strong-armed. Was he a great decision maker? No, but they were down all the time. And the stats back that up, too. When you look at his advanced stats, Trevor Lawrence was 8th in air yards, 4th in money throws, which are throws that show a high degree of difficulty that are placed well, 16th in deep accuracy rating, and 13th in clean pocket accuracy rating. So when he was given advantageous situations, he played well. He played really well. The issue, he was 2nd in pressured throws as a rookie, 1st in passes dropped as a rookie, These things really are going to hurt a rookie quarterback more than a veteran. That's not even bringing up the fact that Laquan Treadwell was their wide receiver 1 for like the last 12 weeks of the season. I made a lot of money off a sleeper on some Laquan Treadwell lines. Now I went back to that well all the time.
Yeah, you did.
Another thing, in games where Jacksonville won, Trevor Lawrence was 63 for 99, so 64% completion percentage, 660 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. In games they lost, 59% completion rating, 9 touchdowns, 17 interceptions, 3,000 yards. They lost most of their games. He wasn't as bad as everyone thought by the stats. It's just that Urban Meyer was there, bad situation, structure. I really think he's a value this year. Even he's getting drafted around like quarterback 16 to 20. He might be a quarterback 1 this year. He has a little bit of Josh Allen, Justin Herbert in him, where he's like a big dude. He can have some rushing upside. At the end of the year, it started to come out. I'm really high on Trevor Lawrence, and I think he's one of those like post-rookie hype sleepers that you're grabbing that's a generational talent that just was in a terrible situation.
I mean, I'm definitely. Here's the difference between. Here's my question though. But does Trevor Lawrence have that dog in him, like Zach Wilson?
Cougar Nation.
That's the real question. Does he have that dog in him? No, but on an honest note, yeah, he's got the intangibles, right? Like he's got that things you can't teach. He's got accuracy. He's got decision making. I think a lot of that had to do. I mean, you see quarterbacks go from system to system and look like terrible decision makers, and it's just because of what their coach is telling them. Yep. How coach told them to do the reads, how they're coached to, take this or that look over another. And, I think he gets out of that Urban Meyer system, and I think he goes, we've talked about Trevor a lot in these last few months, and I think, Doug Peterson is an NFL coach, right? He's a college coach. He's an NFL coach. Through about 14 weeks one season, had Carson Wentz looking like an MVP.
Yeah.
And we saw what happens in the aftermath, right? Because he doesn't even look like an NFL star anymore. So he deserves more credit than he gets. And I think him plus a year of experience, plus, they revamped the offensive line, plus they got ATN back, plus they added some weapons at receiver. All these things fell into good things. And you gotta know your league mates and know who they're talking. If they're NFL normies, they're just gonna think a Jaguars quarterback ain't the dude. And over the last 15 years, that's really probably been accurate. But I think we're hitting a turning point with that. There's going to be, like I said, there's always going to be a stigma, like the Jets, the Jaguars, if they don't have good fantasy assets. I think those days are coming to an end. And I'm on the Trevor bandwagon.
Yeah, I love Trevor. I mean, I'm gonna go like a 0 quarterback in Paulie's playoff, I think, just to do it. And hopefully Trevor will be my first quarterback. So your next flag plant, Lamar Jackson. I like Lamar Jackson too. What's up with Lamar?
So here's my thing. You don't need me to tell you Lamar Jackson's a good fantasy quarterback, right? You just don't. You don't need me to tell you that. You don't. I am very adamant about my theory of a guy on a contract year making some fucking noise, right? It always happens that way. Anybody who's playing for a contract just goes out and absolutely balls out. Here's a camp report. Lamar Jackson's he has been getting in that weight room. He is out there trying to fucking do it, right? Here's another thing. Their mediocre at best running backs aren't healthy. They're not healthy, which means to me, you either have two options. where are they at? Mike Davis.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Davis is the leading rusher. Really don't think so. I think it's a great year in fantasy for him, just solely based off of the rushing production. I think he goes out there, shows everybody why he was the MVP 2 or 3 years ago. I think he plays for a contract. I think he goes out, and in my mind, if I was to make a wager today of who the QB1 overall is, it's probably going to be Lamar Jackson.
Oh yeah, I'm in complete agreement. And the other thing, and I actually saw some of this, and granted it's training camp footage, reports out of camp are saying that he's really grown as a passer. He's shown competency playing under center and in the pocket. I watched a video today, him running a play action. He took like a 5-step drop. The end was coming off of him. Stepped up exactly how you're supposed to and hit Mark Andrews 15 yards down the field. And as I'm watching this, you see the athleticism as Lamar Jackson ooze out as he steps up in the pocket to avoid this rusher. And it just, to me, it all clicked, right? If he can figure out the pocket passing game too, something that Michael Vick eventually figured out, he's going to be really good because he's so athletic and he's so quick. And if the defense has to respect him in the passing game too, where he can drop back and get it to his spots, that's hard to deal with. Yeah, I'm all the way in on Lamar and the rushing. He's a guaranteed top 10 quarterback finish.
The way I feel it, yeah, I think he has a very high floor too. You think about I compare Lamar to Mike Vick a lot. Mike Vick with the Falcons, he did good things. He developed his NFL career, but when he went to the Eagles, and those years that he started starting, especially that one year that he finally started after McNabb moved on, right? Like he was even better on the Eagles than he was better all around on the Eagles than he was with. And I think that maturity, and I think he's rounding himself out into being a better quarterback.
Yep. I think you're spot on. I love Lamar this year. My last flag plant, famous Jameis Winston. I love Jameis. I've loved Jameis for a long time.
I do.
There was a point in time that I wish we would signed him instead of Cam Newton, and you know what? I still wish we did that. He's never finished under quarterback 18 in a year that he's played like a full season or an equitable starting season. Other than like his first few years, he's been like a low-end quarterback 1, high-end quarterback 2, with quarterback 8, 11, 14 finishes in the last 4 years. Pete Carmichael's still there, so even though Sean Payton is gone, you still have the continuity. I think it's going to be a lot of the same playbook, a lot of the same coaching philosophy. Allen's over there now. Dennis Allen, the defensive coordinator, is the head coach. Not much has changed. Michael Thomas is back. Chris Olave is there. I love Olave. Winston and Olave are going to make really, really, really sweet, oh shit, Chris Olave's down there somewhere, magic. Jarvis Landry's there. Alvin Kamara's court date got moved back 60 days. I don't think he gets suspended this year. Probably next year if he's found guilty. I don't think it happens this year. So, all of these auxiliary pieces are very good around Jameis Winston. And say what you will about Jameis, he showed a maturity last year in terms of decision-making he's never shown before. 14-3 touchdown-to-interception ratio. He did it. It was only 7 games, so we don't know how it'll play out. I really like Jameis, and you're getting him down at like quarterback 22, 23, 24, 21, 20, the early 20s. That's a steal. He's going to outproduce that, and it's really not hard. Even though he tore his ACL, he wasn't a mobile quarterback beforehand. However, his workouts show he's pretty mobile. I like Jameis a lot. He's one of my favorite values in drafts, and he's a fun guy to root for, too.
Yeah, absolutely. What I like about his situation is, especially his ADP is solely based on the small sample size we got last year, right? Mm-hmm. Didn't see a whole lot. I thought him. I like him even more this year because, you said it. Michael Thomas is back.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Olave is there. Jarvis Landry's there, and that's way underrated, by the way. Jarvis Landry is essentially, in my mind, the third receiver on that team. Wow. I mean, you're talking some good things. Troutman's back. Everybody on Troutman last offseason. We don't know, but he's back, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I fucked up in Scott Fishbowl, right? I thought, and this is bad on me, but he dropped like the 6th round, Alvin Kamara, and I thought it was a done deal. He was extended for 6.
Yeah.
I didn't know that it was still waiting to I thought it had already happened.
Oh,
so
yeah, no.
yeah,
No. He went kind of early in ours.
I passed on him. Yeah, I passed on him in the 6th round. I feel real fucking stupid after I figured out that wasn't a done deal. But yeah, I mean, and they also went out and got an offensive lineman in the draft. They did lose Armstead, but they went out and replaced him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all signs point to that being an excellent value. I mean, if you're taking that guy, you're talking about people like, I know you got your guys, but you're talking about like, holy shit, people. Derek Carr's going over him.
Mm-hmm.
Kirk Cousins going over him. I mean, you're talking like the bottom tier of what you assume to be a quarterback too. And yeah, it's not hard to outperform that. He's the kind of guy I would love to take as a second quarterback, redraft, single quarterback leagues, and just see what happens.
Quarterback fades. Talked about this guy a lot. Been fading him hard. Trey Lance. Why you not on Trey Lance?
I mean, here's my thing. We've talked about it a lot. I feel like he is and played a whole lot of football in the last 2 years, right? He's in a system that he didn't even get in last year.
Well, he started 2 games. Sorry, he played 2 games in 2 years. He played no games last year.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, no. Yeah, not a lot of football experience. I don't think he is a fit for Shanahan's system. I think that's my ultimate thing I come back to. I don't think Shanahan's offense is designed for a mobile quarterback. Ultimately, I think there's something deeper there. I've seen a lot of reports about how he didn't want Trey Lance. He wanted Mac Jones.
Mm-hmm.
And then you add in the bad reports that have come out of camp. I mean, there's been some diamond in the rough plays that I've seen through that, but just not hearing the greatest things out of camp. I think the lack of competition in college is going to make it real tough for him in the NFL. That's not always the case. I understand that, but there's just too many things piling up for me to take him. Like Superflex leagues, he's going in the 1st round. He's going over Jalen Hurts, which we'll talk about later. He's going over, Tom Brady. He's going over, seeing him in a league go over Kyler Murray, and I don't understand it. Like, he is one of those people in my mind that Twitter has like hyped up more than he can deliver.
Yeah.
Where you're taking him, he needs to be a knockout fucking. You're taking him in the 1st, early 2nd in a Superflex league. If you're taking your first quarterback in a Superflex league, has got to be
a hit. You've got to hit. You've got to hit.
Has to be.
It's got to be a hit. It's got to be a hit, especially when you can get like Kirk Cousins and Derek Carr late. Like, if you're going to use that, you have to use that. Yeah.
I mean, in your first, 2 rounds, if I didn't feel like the quarterback I could get was going to be a hit, I'd flip and take a McCaffrey or a Justin Jefferson or someone I know is going to hit. Yep. And then I'll circle back around and throw my darts later, right?
Yep. Oh, yeah. I don't like Lance either for the same reasons. My question, too, okay, Jimmy G, they're going to cut him. Until they do that, though, like until I see that notification and he's off the team, I don't think anyone trades for him, at least until there's a quarterback injury. If Lance struggles all camp, and then Lance struggles in the first game, and Garoppolo hasn't been cut yet, they're not going to cut him anymore. And then you go 4 weeks of bad Lance play, or 6. Shanahan's not going to deal with that at all. They have, like, there's pressure on them to win now. And yeah, they spent 3 firsts on Trey Lance. I don't think that's who Shanahan wanted. And I think they just were worried someone else was going to jump him. And I think he really wanted Mac Jones. And Mac Jones would have been really good in this system. So I'm out on Lance too. Don't like him.
I think I'm going to go, if we're going over under 4, I'm going to go under. I think if he gets on the first game, right, and he goes out and has a bad half on the second game, I think Shanahan's temper is just a little too much to not yank him at halftime. And just not look. Because what happened with Trey Sermon? We never fucking saw him. Yep. Right? I mean, we never fucking saw the guy. Ayuk, when Ayuk had a bad first start to the year last year, God damn, it was week 14 before we saw that pitch again. I mean, he's got that Belichick in him. You know what I mean? He got that dog in him. Yeah, I think he's got about 6 quarters to prove himself.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong. My first fade at the quarterback position, I have Joe Burrow. And this is more a circumstance of where you're drafting him than an I don't like the player. I really like Joe Burrow. He's one of my favorite quarterbacks to watch. He's the closest thing to Tom Brady that I've seen, and that's lofty coming from me. I don't say that lightly. But where is there for him to go from here? So he's getting drafted at quarterback 7. Let's take into account all of the factors here. He plays in the AFC North. There's no stadium with a dome, and it's all in the Northeast United States. Snow, cold winds, lots of winds, rain, like crazy weather conditions, especially once you hit October. So Burrow has to deal with the conditions with no dome. He has no rushing up, so a little rushing upside. He only rushed 118 times. Zach Taylor's a West Coast zone-based offensive, like school of thought guy. They're not going to be a top 8, 10 passing volume offense. It's just not going to happen, especially when you take into account the weather. And if you're going to be a top 8 quarterback finish, you either have to have major rushing upside, which would be Allen, Lamar, Kyler, and Hurts, or have arm cannons and get to throw the ball at top 5 rates. Mahomes, and then Josh Allen again. Herbert, yeah. I don't know why that wasn't on. That was supposed to be what it said. Yeah, Herbert. And then you take into account the end of this, which is there's Russell Wilson, who's both, especially this year, maybe not past this year, and Tom Brady, who's the latter. I have a cannon arm and throw it 700 times in the season. Where's Burrow going to finish in that top 7? Where in top 8? How does he get past that? He's not. So I love Joe Burrow. I really do. And if he fell to me at quarterback 10, I'd probably grab him. And that might happen in some home leagues. But there's going to be a lot of people who overvalue him. And he already threw for 4,600 yards with a 34-14 touchdown interception ratio. How much more is he going to do?
Yeah, no, I agree with you, and he was real close for me when we were picking players for fades because just strictly where he's getting drafted. I agree with you. If I could get him at a low end QB1, I'm good with that. But at 7 man, I could think at least of 7 or 8 better people without question. And I think ultimately that's what it goes down to is. I'll take him if I can get him at a value. They didn't do anything in the offseason to make me think any differently of him. I mean, they already have what they have for receiving options. Yes, they beefed up the offensive line, but I think that leans a little more towards helping Joe Mixon and not Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
I do. I love watching Joe Burrow. He's that dude. And good on him, for digging the Bengals franchise out of the dirt because they kind of lived there for a long time.
Yeah.
But yeah, he doesn't have much more of a ceiling than what he's already achieved. And at quarterback 7, he's got to go out there and do just as good, if not better, than he did last year. And I just really don't see it out of him. I see the Bengals as a better team in that division. And, if Deshaun Watson plays 11 games this year, the Browns might give him a run in that division. We don't know. So, yeah, I would fade him only at his ADP. Love the player, but you're right. Where is he going to go from there?
Yeah. Your next fade. I was a little surprised when I saw this. Jalen Hurts. Why don't you like Jalen Hurts this year after a quarterback 6 finish last year?
Because he is going exactly where he finished. Quarterback 6, especially in Superflex leagues. Here's the thing. I truthfully believe he has hit his ceiling. AJ Brown.
Mm-hmm.
And outside of that, not a whole lot has changed. I just don't see an avenue where he repeats what he did, and it's just so. For me, that price tag is just a little too much to pay for a guy that I just don't believe has the consistency. This is more of just a gut feeling type of thing. I've seen him go over Kyler Murray. He's gone over people. Like, I've seen him in one league go over Mahomes. And I just feel like out there someone's going to value him a whole lot more than I do just because of what he did last year. And we know that, especially rushing quarterbacks that have that rushing upside, they don't produce year to year like that. It's always like, Kyler Murray 2 years ago rushed for goddamn near 1,000 yards. And then last year didn't even scratch half that. I don't know the numbers, I don't have them in front of me, but it wasn't even close to what he did the year prior. I think smart teams, especially, they try to limit that because of a player's longevity.
Yep.
I don't think, a quarterback rushing, unless it's Lamar Jackson, where they have designed runs, and that's what they want to do with Lamar Jackson. I think it's more of a bad reactive type of thing. And I think Philly gets to a point where I think they probably already are at a point, because I know they were in on the Deshaun Watson thing. They wanted a piece of that. I don't know if they believe that that's the guy. And like we said before, he's a hell of a lot better of a fantasy quarterback than he is a real life quarterback. And I think he goes through some struggles this year. And I'm not even going to mention the fact that Gardner Minshew, have you heard this?
I have. He's living
Bought
on the bus
a fucking
outside of
bus,
gym.
and he lives outside a gym. He's done that for the last 5 months. He lives in a bus outside of a gym. Man, he might fuck around, right? He might fuck around and get in there if Jalen Hurts struggles. So, yeah, I think for me, the price tag's just a little too much. I think he's going way too high. Someone's definitely going to like him more than I do.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not. I didn't agree, but now that we kind of talked about it, I don't think Mitchell's going to play over him or anything. But I do think that you are drafting him at a ceiling, and I don't like the passing upside. My last quarterback fade, Mr. Patrick Mahomes, still going in the top 6 quarterbacks, even though the best weapon for him is gone, and they didn't replace him. Marquez Valdez-Scantling is whatever, and that's about it. But Tyreek Hill is just gone, and there's nothing to replace him. Offense is going to have to be more structured, more quick game, more traditional drop-back passing, due to the fact that you have a Juju and a Sky Moore and a Kelsey, and then how do you run an offense when all three of those guys are slot guys? I mean, yes, both Juju and Sky Moore and Kelsey can all go split out wide. All three are utilized best in the slot, running slot routes. All three of them can't on the same play. I expect Mahomes to be more efficient. I expect him to grow in terms of decision making. Probably going to have a higher completion percentage. Learn to take what the defense gives him, but efficiency doesn't help you in fantasy football. Small rushing upside, but ever since he got paid, he's not running as much until the playoffs. I'm fading Patrick Mahomes. I mean, after quarterback 7, I'd take Russell Wilson over Mahomes. After that, Mahomes is fair. Like Wilson, Brady, then Mahomes. That's about right in my head. But Mahomes is going over both of them, and I don't agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, he's a real easy guy to fade this year, and I think you're exactly right. Here's my thing with Valdez-Scantling is he wasn't super productive even with Aaron Rodgers, and I think Aaron Rodgers is a better passer of the football.
Yep.
Mahomes, I think his value really lied in what he could do with Tyreek on the fly. And you're right, they didn't replace him, and I think that team got worse this offseason by a lot. I think it's to be seen, but yeah, at quarter, what do you say, 6?
Yep.
I think he was going way more than that.
Especially
around here. Our home leagues, he's gonna go way before 6, quarterback 6, just because we live in Chief Nation down here. Someone's definitely gonna value him more than I do. Speaking of that, I probably need to put him on the trade block after we get off of here.
All right.
And
we have 8 minutes, and we have 8 tight ends. You get 1 minute per tight end. That's an interesting statement. Okay, 1 minute. Pat Freiermuth. Why do you like Pat Freiermuth? Why is he a flag player?
Underrated, good ADP. Will get touchdowns.
Maybe gets touchdowns. Here's my question: does Freiermuth get helped or hurt by Trubisky?
Helped, because he can't sling it deep.
Good. I'm on the fence on Freiermuth. My first flag plant, Evan Ingram. Evan Ingram has flashed early excellence until Daniel Jones played. He had a tight end 4, 7, and 7 finish through 3 years. Only had 4 more touchdowns in one of those 3 seasons. Shows me he can produce without the touchdown dependence. Peterson utilized tight ends heavily already. Philadelphia had Zach Ertz finish tight end 3, 3, 2, and 4 in Peterson's first 4 years with the team. Jacksonville doesn't have any alpha wide receivers outside of Kirk. And he has a 4-4 with Trevor Lawrence ripping it down the field. Sounds pretty fun to me. I'm all the way in on Evan Ingram this year.
Evan Ingram, I just feel like it's either going to go real good or real bad. And so far through camp, I've heard a lot about drop balls. I think they'll go as time goes on. I like the value on Evan Ingram and just the pure athlete he is. I'm probably more in and out, but I really am on the fence.
Kyle Pitts, flag plant. Why Kyle Pitts?
Kyle Pitts, here's the thing. High price to pay. Elite athlete. I think that Mariota helps him. Maybe not as much as Drake London. But he did a 1,000-yard season as a rookie, which is unheard of, and I think he's from here. One of one type of athlete, and if he can correct that touchdown thing, I think he is easily the tight end 1 overall, maybe 2, because I fuck with Mark Andrews.
So my question for people like you, well, not my question, but I think what's going to be fun is to see what the real difference is between Marcus Mariota and Matt Ryan and a not Mike LaFleur offense.
I think a lot of the same touchdown woes Kyle Pitts had, Julio Jones had, and I think it's directly linked to Matt Ryan. I don't have the answer as to why, but I think we see a little bit different this year.
I'm not in on Pitts. I'm like hard fading him. At his ADP, I love the player. He's another. I don't like his price, but I love the player. If he was like tight end 7, I'd be all the way in on him. My next flag plant, tight end, David Njoku. With or without Watson, I love Njoku. With Watson, it's pretty obvious why. He's an elite athlete with good hands, and he's pretty big. He can catch over people. Even if Watson doesn't start, though, Jacoby Brissett targeted Mike Gesicki, a similar type of player, 7.7 times a game last year and for across 5 starts. Harrison Bryant's on the roster, but Njoku is going to be getting all the receiving snaps and routes run by tight ends. Been waiting in the background behind Hooper for a while now, but he did have a tight end finish in 2018, so he has been there before. And Stefanski has been singing his praises all offseason. Stefanski doesn't say anyone is good. So I'm pretty confident that Njoku being drafted around tight end 2018-24 is going to really, really outperform that ADP.
I like Njoku, and you can get him real cheap. I don't really think the Gesicki comparison's a whole lot to plant a flag on, but Gesicki ends up in the slot a whole lot more than I think Njoku will. Don't like him at all with Jacoby Brissett because I think that offense is going to be a fucking disaster. But when Deshaun gets back, I think he could be a game changer for that offense because they really don't have a lot of receiving options. Amari Cooper is what he is. David Bell's a rookie. I'm more, like I said, more in than out on him too, especially at where you're going to get him.
All right, fade. Your first fade, Darren Waller.
Darren Waller, price tag's too high, too much competition in there now, and I think they run a different style of offense where he is not the focal point.
Would you rather have him or Schultz?
Schultz, absolutely.
Yeah, that was my takeaway too. My first fade, tight end, George Kittle. I want none of George Kittle. If we were having a full discussion on it, I would have brought up with Freiermuth how the mobility of Mitchell Trubisky hurts him in the long run. Take that and triple it for Lance, and that's Kittle. Like, instead of dumping it off to Kittle and letting Kittle get a bunch of yak yards, which is what he's really good at, it's now going to be, oh, shit, I'm going to take him. And that takes away 3, 4, 5 targets. It's just, and Kittle's so good at blocking. They use him a lot in there to block. That increases your injury risk because you're in there banging each play. He's obviously a tight end 1 in terms of talent and like actual real football skills, but been hurt 4 of the last 5 seasons. Injuries been piling on. Gets a lot of blocking usage. I just, at where you're going to be having to draft him in the top 5, I don't want it. I just don't. I don't want that.
Yeah, definitely not a top 5 guy for me. I love the player. I love to watch him. If I could pick an NFL player I want to have a beer with, it's probably Dorgan. But I'm not going to pay the price that it takes to acquire him because I feel like he is not going to produce at that level. Trey Lance is essentially a rookie quarterback in a system that doesn't fit him. I don't like any of it at all.
Your next last fade, TJ Hawkinson. Why don't you like TJ Hawkinson?
TJ Hawkinson, bad offense, to be honest, not a good quarterback for him. Love the player, but I just don't think the production is going to match what you're going to pay for him. They got St. Brown. Sooner or later, they're going to get back Jameson Williams. They got DeAndre Swift. They got too much other things going on there. He's there. I mean, there's a lot of things going on in Detroit. I don't think he's going to be as much of a factor as what you're going to pay to get it.
Yeah, I think Hunter Henry finishes higher than he does, and I mean Hunter Henry's cheaper than him. All right, my last fade, Mike Gesicki. I have seen reports out of camp that this man is blocking a lot. I'll tell you what, Mike Gesicki shouldn't be used as a blocker. Tyreek's going to hurt him too. He's seen a ton of targets with Tua over these last 2 years. And I think that with the addition of Tyreek, these targets are going to magically just dry up. Like, Tyreek's going to run a lot of the same routes Gesicki was. He's going to be used as a blocker. I would be absolutely shocked if Miami is in the top half of passing attempts this year. It's not the San Francisco, Kyle Shanahan, Mike McDaniel, West Coast zone offense. It's predicated on running and running and running. And they have 3 really at least starter level running backs in Sony Michel, Chase Edmonds, and Raheem Mostert in the backfield. And Myles Gaskin, who played okay in the last 2 years. So they have a bunch of these running backs, and I think we're going to see a lot of runs. Tyreek and Waddle are really going to funnel a lot of the offensive passing work. He's an elite athlete. I really think that if he was in New England or Tampa Bay, for example, moment of sadness for that. If he was in Tampa Bay, he'd be really good. But in the situation he's in, he's limited. You're getting him at tight end 14. I like Evan Ingram and David Njoku, at least this year, as guys with similar skill sets, but in better situations and cheaper.
Absolutely. I think Gesicki the last few years has been a value, but this year I just don't see it. I don't see an avenue where he produces like he has. I think there's a lot going on because Chase Edmonds can catch the ball. Mostert can catch the ball. Hasn't done it a whole lot, and those guys really fit his system a lot better than Gesicki does, because I think Gesicki, he spent so much time of his career running routes. I don't think he can pick up that pass and pick up that run blocking quite like George Kittle could, and I don't know if he's really going to fit in a situation where he's out there as much.
Yeah.
So that's my concern with him. I mean, we know he can run around and catch a football, but get on the field. So we'll see. I don't mind him at his ADP, but if it'd be like a last case scenario, second tight end type of thing,
yeah, like a second tight end and a tight end premium. Have anything else we want to go over? Good.
That's it, baby. Almost there.
We'll be weekly.
It's on Thursday.
Yep, we will be weekly. So get back with you guys next week. Go over some running backs, then next some wide receivers, and then 2 weeks away from the NFL season. Have a good night, guys. Thanks for listening.